we're going to go over the update of this 60 card list. It's my 60 card list from the other week, except I have a bunch of changes in it that I feel like you guys kind of need to know about if you've been running that list. That list has like almost 16k views. So yeah, no, I wanted to show you guys the update. So obviously 3 Cartesia I think is pretty standard at this point, especially in a 60 card build. 2 Quem, I was running the Stellar of the White Forest last build. I took it out because I think the 3rd Cartesia is a lot better overall. When you're comparing card quality, I think Cartesia is a way better card to have in hand because you aren't going to go neg. I do think a Stellar is a super good mill, and I've always advocated for a Stellar. I just think there's not enough hands where I draw a bunch of spells with this build in particular. So I think that, but I also think we're on grass, and the Stellar is an amazing mill off of grass because you can just go grass and then trigger Shrouded because it's Albaz in the graveyard, trigger a Stellar. And I think that's really valuable. I just think overall, I think I had enough good mills in this deck to where I didn't feel like I needed a Stellar in the deck, because that's like the one benefit over, I think, over 3rd Cartesia. I could run the 3-in-1, but I think that's too many normal summons overall, and the Stellar's not really a normal summon, but in some hands it can be. And I think with the ratios at 60, you kind of just have to be careful on things. So that's just kind of my rant on 60. 3 Albaz, 3 Aluber, nothing to really say there, of course. Also, guys, we're at 6 likes right now. Make sure to leave a like on the stream. If we hit 30 likes, we will be doing roasting deckless tonight. And then 1 Spriggan's Kit. I think you have to be running Spriggan's Kit post Spray Infusion to 1. Still think Branded's going to be one of the best decks going forward. I think we have consistently displayed this. Pack has showed people this as well, you know, doing very well with it. I think that we are going to see results from Branded, and people are going to be really surprised when Branded is still doing very good. I think it will, people are going to be turned off on the deck a little bit, but that's okay. They're just gonna, people will come back to it. And then, so you have to run the 1 kit, still not on 2 or 3. You don't need it until opening goes to 1, if anything, even. 3 Shrouded Dragon, you have to run it, especially when you're running grass, because these are your best mills with grass. 3 Shrouded Dragon, 3 Saronir, Lubellion, Shiren, and Gimmick Puppet, and then Tragedy. These are your best mills generally in with grass is greener. So when people are like, oh, grass isn't good in Branded, I present to them these cards, because essentially if you mill any combination of like 1 or 2 of these cards plus like an Albaz or a Cartesia, you are in money. And you are going to mill one of these, and you're going to probably mill like probably a Shrouded plus a if you do Shroud plus Shiren plus a Albaz, like that's a free Mirror Jade just off of your grass, and then you can use your Branded Fusion for other things. Also, just milling the Lubellion, super important. Milling the Gimmick Puppet. We still play Gimmick Puppet, still one of the best cards in the whole deck. Unfortunately is a very toxic card, but I think as of right now with decks like Yubel, it still feels kind of necessary, unfortunately, because you can crack Yubel, but they have definitely more, you know, they don't have as much follow-up as full power Snake Eye. You gotta be honest about that, guys. Cracking a full power Snake Eye board was kind of toxic back in the day, because we would have to gimmick lock them because they would always just float off a Flame Burge unless we got lucky. But in this equation, we're probably like banishing Princess or something, and they always get the Flame Burge banish. It's crazy. Or the Flame Burge float. Shiren's just one of the craziest cards in the whole deck, because you're also, like I said, running the grass looks greener. I still think this is one of the best techs for this format right now. Would I run in like a 50 or 40 card list? Probably not. I think it's just really good because of grass. I didn't really like it before grass, and now that grass is legal, I do think it's the best mill by far. So that's just kind of what you have to contend with overall. No, I didn't cut grass. And then also 3 Saronir, of course, because 3 Saronir, you have to run it. It's really good. We cut the Magnemut. That was one of the things that I ended up cutting. I don't think Magnemut is impactful enough in the Yubel matchup. It's obviously a +1, but with these ratios, I felt like I wanted my hands to be good enough going second and first. I couldn't really fit the Magnemut. The Magnemut would probably be the 61st card. I also cut the Bestial Luber. That was not something... I mean, I'm running Super Poly now, which is pretty cool with Bestial Luber. I just think that doesn't justify it. It doesn't do enough on its own. Unfortunately, it's just a really good brick, so it's kind of where I'm at with Bestial Luber. And also just like the one tragedy, because we're running 2 Mercurier. I prefer, so we were on 2 tragedy instead of 2 Mercurier, but I kept missing the second Mercurier way too much, so we ended up running 2 Mercurier. That's just kind of is what it is at the end of the day. Milling Merc is also great if you have a Bestial in hand. Yeah, exactly. And so that's why I think Saronir is our best Bestial by far. And I think running at 3. Oh, and then also, I have to talk about, I'm only running 1 Lubellion now. We were also only on, we were on 3 Lubellion last time. And I still think that's not a bad call. I just need to find room. That's why, like, this kind of build, it has definitely less monsters. I like the 3 Lubellion. I was just having issues with the hands going second, where you would draw 2 Lubellion. I don't really... Those types of hands I feel like I lose with. And once again, I do think the Bestials are really good this format. I also think they're not nearly as good as they were last format. So like these two things can be true at the same time, so this kind of affects. This thing's not even a quick play, you know. I don't need to run at 3. I think like it's really good if you find the room, especially for high spirits and allure. Like I wish if I had a 70 card deck, like 3 of these would definitely be in there, kind of thing. Like a lot of the time, like I talked to Yuri Diaz about this the other day. Shout out my man, and we were like, yeah, I wish like Branded could have like 80 cards. Like I would definitely run Branded at 80 cards, honestly, because then you could like fit stuff like your desires would get a lot better. You could run other things too, of course. I actually don't know if I'd run it. To be fair, if you run at that much, it might be a bit much. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, we're on 1 Lubellion. 1 Lubellion was just fine. I didn't miss the 2. But, you know, that's something that you guys can certainly experiment with, especially with Apollusagon. 1 Branded Fusion, the God card. I'm starting to draw this card a bit more than I probably should, I'm not gonna lie. 1 Branded in white, because, and this is something that we were not running on the last build, which I did mention in the video, I believe, where I was just like, I really wish that I ended up running, like, I wish I could have found room in that profile for this, but I just couldn't. But with cutting the Lubellion, like, this card fits into the equation so much better, because of the fact that you have a lot better hands. Like Lubellion plus this does nothing, so that's just kind of a brick hand. That's also one of the reasons I cut Lubellion. That's always something when you have to consider like branded deck building. Like you need to get to Branded Fusion, whether it's sending it to the graveyard and hopefully not getting crowed or searching it. You need your cards to be able to work, and Branded White's a terrible card to have with no extenders. So it's a dangerous card to run, in my opinion, in Branded when you don't have a correct sense of the deck building ratios of your Branded deck. So what I mean by that is, like, obviously with the Lubellion anecdote, if you're just drawing these hands where white isn't going to be active, like, there's no point in running it because it's going to be a dead brick, in my opinion. I think between running the grass and then running the ratios I do run, it feels a lot better. I don't know. I didn't change a whole lot, like I said. I mean, I did remove the Lubellion, which maybe in theory makes it worse, but it just felt really good. It was super good. It's really good because you can make your Rinbrum lines get so much better with this card, which is really important. I think because Rinbrum's just great under Shifter as well. You could also make Lad with it. And then 2 Branded in red. You just have to run 2 because of the desires that we run. We're still on desires. We'll talk about that. I'm going to make a video on how to play around desires because I still think desires is one of the best cards in Branded. And some people, yeah, have yet to believe me. What's up, GZ1K? Nice to see you. How you doing? How you doing? Also, if someone can ban that guy, the R Sphere, I got you at the block list. Yeah, so... Yeah, I think Brand White's really good. I made a whole video on it. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already, because I go really in depth on like why this card's good. It makes it so you can make some of the best combo plays you have, and you don't have to go through Gimmick Puppet. It's just like a really good draw when you just have like 2 extenders. If you have this plus like an extender or 2, it's a crazy card to draw. Even going second in that case, so it's like not bad. It just gives you like another body on board that does something. 3 openings, 1 lost, really standard. 3 high spirits, not so standard, but like it's what we were on last list. I think that high spirits is still one of your best cards. I think it needs to be mandatory now, people to run 3 branded and high spirits by far. I think this is very much a mandatory thing. Even if you're on like 50 or something, like just find room for it. Like don't run allures or something. You just like need it because it's basically the same thing as resolving branded fusion. It's a searchable nadir servant. So it's something I think that everybody needs to be on right now. What's up, Krabs TV? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. So we have 3 fusion deployments, super standard, don't even have to talk about it. It's really, I love running Alba Lineatus with this card. That is what I'll say, because it's great having the option to just like contact fuse Alba with this card right now, because there's just so many dragons on end boards when you're playing against Rogue. It's crazy. 1 Gold Stark, because it is a very, very good card. 1 Foolish Burial. These are just like my 2 freebie extenders. They make hands a lot better because they aren't a normal summon. So if I still think like in a build, like I thought this was better than the Lubellion, like the 3rd Lubellion. Just having the Foolish, it's just like, wait, you lose, or your hands just get so much more playable when you're running the 1 Foolish over like bricks essentially. So a lot of people ended up cutting Foolish. I don't think there's enough Droll to really even consider that. Also, it plays around Droll. Like a lot of the time, you're sending branded fusion to the graveyard. So I think Foolish Burial is really important in that case. And we're also running, or it's also good for like things like Shaddoll Dragon or Shiren too. So, and Gold Sark's just like the best card in the deck. Honestly, it's such a good, crazy card. I wish we had it at 3. All right, 54 people watching. How's it going, guys? We're going over my first place updated 60 card branded list. Of course, if you like the video, please make sure to leave a like down below. If we get 30 likes, we will be roasting deck lists. We're at 8 likes right now. Also, if we get 5 channel members today or 5 Twitch subs, any combination, we are going to show off combos for this deck live. We're also going to do ranked games, and we're going to review the gameplay also after this deck profile. From the locals. We're going to review the whole locals that I went first place with. So 3 Allure Darkness and 3 Desires for the draw cards. You could also include the 1 Talents as a draw card, I guess, but like overall. So we'll talk about Allure first because it's a lot easier. Allure is just like one of the best cards in Branded. It's one of my favorite cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm never not going to run a deck I can run Allure in and not run it, even if it's not the most optimal. I've always actually, in my opinion, Allure's always been good in Branded. I don't know if there's a format where I would have, except for super heavy format where everybody was actually on Droll. I think Allure's just been good every format, so I continue to run it. And I think you have to run it if you're at 60. I think these cards are non-negotiable if you're at 60. Because if you're playing these without 60, you're gonna end up just bricking. Like, these cards make it so you can cipher through your deck and go +2 and 3 and end up with a 8 to 9 card starting hand going second, which allows you to break any board. Or going first, you can end up having a 7 to 8 card hand, which allows you to play through any hand trap. Someone was like, and shout out to this guy, he's a viewer, he comments on a lot of my videos. He was like, 40 or 60 is not better than 40 cards in terms of playing through hand traps. I'm like, it's just pure card advantage, my man. That's the name of the game. These cards give you card advantage. Card advantage wins you Yu-Gi-Oh! It's one of the most basic principles of the game. It's always been true. And this is just a flat +1. Yes, you can banish Branded Fusion. However, I think you can just play around it. I know some people still advocate for blind desiresing in Branded. I don't think you can do that anymore with 1 Branded Fusion. I think you're playing Russian roulette if you blind desires. So I think what you need to do, you have to kind of apply a strict code on desiresing where you only resolve it once you've searched Branded Fusion. This gets rid of Desire's ability to play around Ash, which was a really nice part of Desires. However, I think you can break this code when you have a brick hand. Like, if you only have Cartesia plus no extenders plus Desires, you go Desires, right? Or like Allure. Like, you go Desires in that hand. And then you play with what you banish. If you banish Branded Fusion, you can still win the game because you set up things like High Spirits and Albion and Titanclad to still Puppet Lock. So I think it's totally fine if you banish the Branded Fusion, but it shouldn't. You should not be banishing Branded Fusion, I think, if you're playing Desires and Branded correctly this format. And for that reason, it's still just like, it keeps paying off. Every time I see these cards, I'm able to draw my board breakers. I'm able to draw my engine. And like I mentioned before, I think Branded has a fantastic time and has always had a great time breaking boards with engine. It's one of the best board breaker decks still in the game, even with the Brand Fusion at 1, because you have things like Deployment, Fallen of Albaz, Mirror Jade. So I think these cards just help facilitate making really simplified board states with board breakers and card advantage. Yeah, 3 high spirits with Dragon Cow is very good, Subscribes TV. Bro, I'm so mad I have a regional tomorrow. I ordered Grass Looks Greener, but the seller shipped out too late. Oh, unfortunate. Good luck tomorrow, though, Crabs. I might see you at that regional. Devin Reeves, high spirits is for sure huge. Now you need the access to Kit for grind. Yeah, that's the thing, too. You just need to be able to search Kit. Like, Kit is one of your best cards right now, and you only need 1 because you're running 3 high spirits. And it sets up Kit's special summon ability, so that's like what's really good about it. So let's talk about these board breakers, guys. Because I do want to talk about Talons, because this is another draw card. But we'll get there when we get there. So I'm going to talk about Super Poly and Book of Eclipse for the first half of the board breakers. And then we'll talk about the Thrust package, of course. Because I think Thrust is a board breaker for sure. I think that the correct ratio in 60 for board breakers right now is, for quick play board breakers, is 6. Or just like general board breakers that aren't like Thrust or Talons, the 3-in-1 package of this are 6. If you run 9, in my opinion, you start losing game 1s to hand traps really hard. Or going first to game 1 going first to hand traps. So I think this is a good enough ratio where I feel like I can draw into my cards through my draw engine, through my allure, through my desires. If you're not running desires, then you're gonna have to run those 3 more board breakers, to be fair. That is something, to be fair. I think desires, like I mentioned before, one of its best aspects is to draw into these things. So I think Super Poly is one of the best board breakers right now. We were not on this on the last list, but I think I ended up testing it extensively, and I was immediately impressed with how it went again into UBell boards, because essentially what it does is it breaks down the UBell board. It takes out their 2 best cards, and you don't even have to run a target. You don't. That's, I think, one of the most economical things, because when Super Poly, you don't have to run a Super Poly target in Branded right now. I think Super Poly is incredible in Branded because of that fact. Because Super Poly is then just like very general. You get to make either engine, or you get to make something like a Stapelio, which literally outs the UBell board outside of Nightmare Pain and the Unchained card and the Phantom, but in any hand traps in hand. But you get rid of the Verudris and the Desiree, which are their best cards. So you can punch through the rest of that board with engine very, very easily. Like a branded loss stops that board, right? Plus branded fusion. So that's why I'm saying Super Poly is really good right now. It makes it so you just need 1 board breaker, which is the Super Poly plus engine. That's all you need, folks. So this is really good. Highly recommend. Try it out. Like I said, you don't need to run Garura or Mud Dragon right now. Those things are brick. You'll never make them. If you're making them, you are losing the game. That's also why I don't like Super Poly, because those cards are not good in Branded. I mean, Mud Dragon kind of to dodge Imperm, but I think that's kind of cope even. And Book of Clips, we've explained this a billion times. Book of Clips is one of the best board breaker. It's the best board breaker in Branded, besides just Thrust or Talents. It's non-negotiable. You dodge Imperm with it, because you can chain this on Imperm Veiler or Ghost Mourner, and if the monster is no longer face up that's being targeted, the effect will fizzle on the Veiler, so you can still search off of Aluber. I have to re-explain that each time because I still get questions about that, which is understandable. It's a funny ruling. Like, I don't think I knew about that until I knew about it, right? Why no use? Dragon Lord? Dragon Lord's in my current list right now. We're gonna talk about Dragon Lord because it should have been in this list. I think Dragon Lord's really good right now. I've sworn to never play Desires with how many times I've been unlucky with it, Jasser. I mean, fair enough, but like I said, if you just like resolve after you get Brand Fusion, like preferably an Albaz in hand, like what's the worst? I mean, you just have to learn how to play around the banishes. Like if you banish your Puppet, or if you banish your Cartesias, you banish your Quems, you just gotta know what to do at that point. And that, in my opinion, the card advantage is still worth it, right? 3 thrust, 1 talents, 1 grass, 1 duplication as the thrust side of things. We'll talk about grass after. I've been seeing some people run 3 talents. I think talents is really good this format. I still think talents sucks in our deck though. Unless you're going against like a dragon deck that ends on Dissipator, because like Dissipator takes now our best take. We can take High King Wave Caesar, we can take Varudris, but you can probably get the Caesar a lot more. You're never taking the Varudris. So I do think that talents is not as good as some people might think in our deck. I might eat those words. I just hate talents at multiples. I think you can very easily search off a thrust. It's one of the best searches off a thrust going second. And I don't want to see extra copies, although it is cracked when I see it in my opening hand right now. So I think it warrants more testing. But that's why it's at 1. And so I can break boards with these, search out Dark Ruler evenly, whatever I need. And then 1 Grasslook Screener and 1 Fusion Duplication. Grasslook Screener is just crazy right now. I think there's no reason not to run it if you're on 60. I think you are building incorrectly if you are on 60 and not running Grasslook Screener. Unless you're crabs and you literally are still waiting on your copy. Anastasios Melonis, slightly dumb question. Is it possible to play a 50 card branded without thrust, or 50 card variant without thrust? Yeah, for sure. I have budget variants of branded. You could actually go check out my channel that we're going to release an updated one for, you know, the post 1 branded fusion list with grass. I mean, obviously don't run grass in the 50 card list. Grass is crazy though, guys. It's the reason to run 60 this format. You never base a deck around grass. I think that's a losing prospect. But grass, we were already running branded at 60. I would still be on... Honestly, I'm thinking now. Would I be on 60 without grass right now? Probably. I think that was going to be the plan. But I think grass makes 60 way better now. Because we have 3 copies of grass in the form of Triple Tactics Thrust, which searches it out going second. So we have 4 copies in a 60 card deck of Grasslook Screener going second, which that's half the time. And, you know, with those ratios, that's probably like a 20% chance of seeing your grass. That's not bad. We could even add in a 1 of left arm offering. Yuri Diaz was theorying with me about that, just adding a left arm offering with the grass. I do think that is certainly something that we could end up doing. Leave the likes on the stream, guys. Yeah, for sure, for sure. We're at 60 people right now. If we get 30 likes on the stream, we are going to roast your guys' deck list. It's basically a deck doctor. You know, we're going to go over your guys' deck lists. We're going to tell you guys, like, what you can do better on them and just, like, generally show off the goo. New format. Also, if we get 5 channel members / Twitch subs, just click the join button or subscribe on Twitch. We will also be showing off combos from this deck, but in the meanwhile, we're going to go over a gameplay review of my locals run that I won with this deck after this. And then we're also going to play yugioh Omega, and then we'll do the deck list and the combos in between if we hit those goals. So I do appreciate everybody. We have 64 people watching. I do appreciate you guys. Yeah, grass. I think grass is one of the craziest cards. We also have to talk about how it's a board breaker. If you resolve a grass looks greener going second, you break any board. You will a UBell board will look trivialized because you end up generating so much advantage that they cannot interact with because you are going to be chain blocking and you are milling 30 cards. Okay, what happens if you mill Branded Fusion? Okay, Shrouded Dragon Send Retribution. Search Kit. Like, you know, I think a lot of people need to think beyond what just a grass can do, because sometimes you won't even hit a trigger, but you'll mill Shrouded Cartesia Tragedy with a Branded Fusion, and that's full combo just off the grass, but you didn't hit any triggers. And then sometimes you'll hit the Shiren, the Shadal Dragon, and you'll go plus infinite. So I think that's definitely what you want to be doing. For sure, for sure. So, thanks for subscribing, Ankush, on YouTube. I really do not prefer the 60, says Kaboom deck list. You never draw the cards you need, you want to see. I mean, that's why you run Allure and Desires. I was talking about this before. To run 60 correctly, you have to deck build really cleanly. Like, You can ask any 60 card branded pilot. They will tell you a 60 card branded list is way more tight than a 40 card or a 50 card branded list could ever hope to be, because you have to add in so many engines that are multiple cards to make this, to facilitate the 60 cards and what it's trying to do in making yourself a ton of card advantage. So if you're not having fun with 60, I do say you try out the list, that because I lab these lists every day. Try out the list and come back to me. Think about running 3 tragedy and 60 card 2BA, it says Katado. I think 3 tragedy is too much. I think 2 is just fine, but I could understand running 3, especially if you're on a lure as well. So grass is a board breaker. You always, when you resolve it going second, you are going to search it off a thrust. And some people were like, oh, you want to search Branded Fusion off a thrust. No, you don't. You want to search Branded Fusion off of a Luber or send it to the graveyard. So thrust is either going to search going second a talents or a grass. And either or is going to be just fine. Either or is just fine. Grass is so good. And it's why I'm never going to main a lesser count build in branded right now. I think this is the best build personally. I got my biases. Thanks for subscribing, Anastasio. Also called by Retribution. Also, we're gonna go over the gameplay. Called by was the most insane card ever. Do not called by. I have been here before where I'm like, I can cut called by. I've won so many. I've won two of my games just by having called by in my deck. From both of these locals that I've gone first place with, that I uploaded a deck profile of. This card is staple. You keep it in going second. I hope this card comes to 2, because I will run it at 2. What's up, NWildTV? Nice to see you. Nice to see you, my man. How you doing? How you doing? Plus Ultra says Kaboom. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that was the main deck. Also, 1 fusion duplication. You still gotta run it. You run the thrust package. I don't think 3 fusion duplication is no longer the play. So we got my 2 tokens. I'm holding up. I got another one, but I'm holding up my Starlight Grand Guignol right there. Plus Ghost Rare, Black Rose, and Stardust. I love my dragons, guys. That's why I love branded. It's dragons and spellcasters. Yeah. So let's go over the extra deck. It's okay, so 2 Grand Guignol. I still think this is very standard. I also have 2 Starlights. Now I'm very happy about that. 2 Grand Guignol. You have to run 2 Grand Guignol. It's the only fusion card in my extra deck that I play 2 of besides Albion the Branded Dragon. These are the only 2 ofs in the extra deck. I think you have to run two of each to facilitate the grind games. You don't have to run 2 of this if you don't run Adlib or Puppet, but if you run either Adlib or Puppet, I think running 2 is essential, so you could play through hand traps. It helps you play through hand traps and play on your opponent's turn. It's also a really good target to make off a Cartesia to loop the Mirror Jade under Quem. So I think it's really important to have it for 2 on that reason too. I think with 1 branded fusion, we need to be doing Quem and cart plays way more often. So having 2 is just like, you have to be running 2 in my opinion. And then same with Albion. Like I said in my last deck profile, if you're only running 1, what are you doing? Speaking of one-ofs that are questionable, Mirror Jade the Iceblade Dragon. Let's look at that Starlight, guys. God damn. So Mirror Jade, of course, is the best card in the deck. Why are we only running 1 of it? Well, Branded Fusion's at 1, so we aren't quite going into Mirror Jade as often, maybe. I don't even think that's the case, because I don't think Branded Fusion really fundamentally changed anything going to 1. It just hit the consistency. But I think this format, we need a toolbox extra deck. Especially with Grass. Since I'm running Grass, I need a good fusion, so I'm running Masquerade. So I think Mirror Jade at 1 is just fine, because we're running the... Because, of course, we're running the TEARLAMENTS Shiren, which allows us to recycle the Mirror Jade alongside the the Lubellion the Searing Dragon. Here, I'm going to zoom out now. Because, of course, these guys are mandatory. But these 2 cards help me recycle my Mirror Jade, so I have a quote-unquote second. And I have not missed the second Mirror Jade while running the Shiren and, obviously, the Lubellion. That's very standard. So, 1 Lubellion, you have to run it. 1 Rinbrum. 1 Titanclad, 1 Alba. We need a Starlight of the Titanclad, Konami, please. And then 1 Sanctifier for the rest of the Albaz fusions. So you gotta run Sanctifier. It's the Puppet Lock. It's also, I would run it because of evenly matched. Besides that, because people still be siding into evenly matched against Branded when we have Sanctifier. So I'm gonna make you have a dead ass card in your hand every fucking time. And that's what Albion the Sanctifier does. So Albulinatus is the one of the MVPs. I'd say this is like maybe the 5th MVP of the deck. Someone asked me and I like pulled out 4 cards. This would be like the 5th. I think this card is incredible, this format, because for some reason I keep playing against Dragon decks. That might be a localized thing, but even online, it's really nice to have that angle, right? Like, there's no other interaction in the deck that is a contact fuse, so having that option tree is really important in my opinion. So, just having that right there is just kind of why we're running it. It doesn't always come up, but it also has utility because you can go into Lubellion and recycle all your dragons by making Albulinatus. It doesn't come up all the time, but it's a really good way to recycle everything. So, or all your dragons rather, because you can recycle all your Albazes, all your dragon fusions. 1 Titanclad, 1 Renbrum. Renbrum's great with it. This card gets insane when you run Branded in white. And also, I think it's just so important to have a copy of 2 copies of Albaz always in rotation because of this card. Because if you get hand trapped, you can always send Renbrum to the graveyard off of Mirror Jade, which is a banish, and then you can send the Renbrum, which summons the Albaz. You need a second Albaz because your first Albaz is going to get banished off of Branded in red or the Bestial when they target it. So Renbrum's just so much better when you have correct kind of graveyard control in your deck too. And with the Branded in white as well. Guys, I'm going to read a lot of the chats when I get to the end of the stream. I've been kind of... I want to get the deck profile out so we don't meander. And here, also Despia and Quertus. This is the 1 Grand Guignol target. I think Quertus is incredible this format. So I'm very happy with running Quertus. You know, shout out to Despia and Lulu Wall Lilith, my girl. But I still think Quertus is better. 1 Dracostapelia, 1 Masquerade. I guess Masquerade's the other Despian. So yeah, I think Masquerade is really good right now. You know, I don't think without Lacrima for time is as much of an issue. Like, I've been seeing a lot less Spooky Dogwood in the equation and people's decks. Just anecdotally, I still see some people holding on to Spooky Dogwood as if Lacrima just really hurt them. And I understand, because it's a really good card, and I would be the first person to say that I've always said Dogwood was a broken card and a good card. So I think Masquerade, conversely, is going to be a very good card, because games are still going to go time, especially with the new format coming up. So I think Masquerade, and most of all, it's the best Shiren target, because it makes it so Tearlaments Shiren all the time can make this. I'm going to say right now, though, I think I want to run 2 Tragedy because of Masquerade, because without the 2 Tragedy, it feels like I can't make the Masquerade as much. So, or like an ad lib. So that's something you guys can kind of consider for like when you take this build on your own, is like how to fit the 2nd Tragedy. And that's like what I'm gonna do for after this. If we get into some ranked games, we can kind of get into that. 1 Pred Plant, 1 Chimera, 1 Boral. Boral remains to be the most insane card in the deck, honestly. I think this could be a Lad Lord. This right here should be a Lad Lord. I came into this event wanting this to be a Lad Lord. However, you guys will see on the stream, I made this card hella. And it was very good that I had it. I would not have been able to make it over Lad Lord. Or I would not have been able to make Lad Lord over this card. So that's why I think this card, yes, it does less than Lad, and it plays through Shifter worse than Lad. It doesn't quite fit into the Shifter lines as well. But it's still an anti-Shifter card. And I still think you need it, because you end up making these 2 guys under Shifter most of the time. It's pretty good. But if you run the Lad, you can end on this, which is Lad plus Boral, which is more negates for Undershifter. So that's something you can consider. Stapelli over Lad. I just think that this card's way too insane, especially with Shiren being in the game. It just makes it so like I can spin back my Mirror Jade super, super easy. So I've just got some. Also, like I said, guys, this was not in the main deck. I just want to mention this right now. A Stellar, very good card, very good mill. Something that we could run. I think it's really hard to justify because, like I said, guys, there's a lot of cards I want to put in. Like, there's a lot of cards I want to put in. This is just one of them. So, all right. So let's see what this side deck was looking like. We have 3 Phantasme. What is there to say with Phantasme? You guys know it's a meme with me at this point. I have yet to resolve this card. I've resolved it like once or twice, right? But like in no meaningful way. However, in theory, it's an insane card against certain link strategies. And at this locals, I play against plenty of link strategies. You guys saw I play against Marincess. If I drew this against Marincess, it would have been an auto win. Marincess is not a deck that you should prepare for, though, so that's not a great example. However, I still think it's good against things like yugioh, which makes multiple links. It's really good against Fire King. It's really good against any Snake Eye variant if they're still gonna be stumbling along with their 1 Ash and one Poplar. I do think the Fire King variant's very good, though. That one doesn't stumble, but if you're playing pure Snake Eye, that's some cope, man. Like, you break that thing with any board breaker now. It makes a cute board, but what's a cute board when it gets broken by anything? Jasser, Thrust feels so essential and branded, but so expensive. It's been printed, reprinted 3 times, but short printed every time, even in the new tins. It's getting short printed in the new tins. That's crazy. What the, like, what's the point of these reprints if they're going to be the same amount of money that the old variants are, right, guys? Yeah, I just gotta make sure I've got... Yeah, okay, so 5, 10... And, okay, cool. Oh, okay, cool. I was like, where are my other 2 extra deck cards? So yeah, Phantasme is okay, especially when you have other board breakers. I wish I had Mulcharmies. If I had Mulcharmies plus this, that's kind of why I run online. 3 Phantasme plus 3 Mulcharmy. I think that's a pretty decent one, but I think Mulcharmy's terrible against Yubel. So it's unfortunately not that good. I don't think Mulcharmy's worth it right now. If you have Mulcharmies, you could run them, but I don't think it's really that worth it. Phantasme leaves a lot to be desired, but it's a dark dragon, so it's like such a good combo piece. Like, it makes it so I can run high spirits, all that fun stuff. 3 evenly. Still the best board breaker in the game right now. Like, where are the Omni negates? And then for the rest of the board breakers, just Dark Ruler and Change of Heart. You guys saw Change of Heart come into play in my last game. It was really good. Change of Heart's really good right now for the same reason Talents is really good, and, you know, Taking is very good right now. And just having a card that straight up takes first action, especially, is like super important in this format, in my opinion. This could have been a Talents, but I want to be able to resolve Talents and Change of Heart in the same time, so, or in the same turn, so that's why it's a Change of Heart versus like a 2nd and 3rd Talents. And like I said, I might even try those out. 1 Dark Ruler just so I could search off a Thrust, because sometimes I want a Dark Ruler that I can search off a Thrust, and if I don't have that search, it's like really not a great play, so that's why you have the 1 of. Oh, and then 1 Feather Duster, because you have to run Feather Duster. It's just, I don't know. First action, main phase, destroys all spells and traps is pretty good against some of our worst matchups, so that's all I'm going to say there. It's also a thrust target, and that's kind of like where the name of the game is right now, is using, you know, a bunch of cards that are searchable off a thrust. I would also say Magical Spring is something that you guys can consider over the Mulcharmies, or like Phantasmes, or like in conjunction. I do want to try Magical Springs, but I only have like 1 copy, so that's why IRL, so that's why I didn't really bring it. Bestials, guys. 2 Bestials, Magnamut, Druid Storm. Magnamut's still one of our best cards going second. Goes in virtually against every matchup that if there's going to be a dark going to the graveyard. But Talents is really good this format, so I'm trying not to play into Talents, so it can be kind of an end phase thing. Druid Storm just for an extra body. I think this should be a Baldrake. Also, this, like I said, could be in the main deck at some point. I think Baldrake's way better than Druid Storm, though. You can just, like, send your own, like, Saronir, trigger your Saronir. Like, it's kind of crazy. And then for the last cards, Shaddoll Dragon. This card's incredible. I was testing online, and I went against Runic Stun, and I just kept getting Floodgated. And also White Forest Runic. Still, they're running new Floodgates, so you need something to out them, guys. So Shaddoll Dragon will be there to do that. You have to run this. I think this is, like, mandatory, this format. And then 1D Barrier, and then 2 Fusion Duplications for the going first cards. So, Duplications there. This should probably be Nadir Servant, if I'm being honest, but Fusion Duplication feels so good right now. Like, even though there's one branded Fusion, like, maybe I'm just being a crackhead right now, but I think Fusion Duplication at 3 is really good, even with one branded Fusion. Because you can use Kit, Recur, the Banished one, and all you have to do to win a game is resolve Fusion Duplication. I think my win rate, once Fusion Duplication has resolved, is like 90%. Like, this card's nuts. And Nadir's not as nuts as Fusion Duplication. So, and also, you have a chance of playing through Shifter with Duplication if you have opening pitch branded Fusion, which is really not a thing now, to be fair, with one branded Fusion. Then 1D Barrier to play through Shifter, because you thrust this off a Shifter after getting Shiftered. It's pretty good against, like, Ritual Beast. It's pretty good against Tenpai. You just call Fusion against Ritual Beast. You call Synchro against Tenpai. They can't kill you. Neither of them can kill you at that point. So they can't ulti Kanahawk loop. So that's why I do like D-Barrier a lot. Just as it solves your worst matchups off of a thrust. So I think it's a worthwhile investment. Alright, so that was the deck profile, guys. I don't really have any shoutouts, to be honest.